Hey guys, Golic here. We want to thank Allstate for teaming up with the Golic and Wingo podcast this season. Allstate is also teaming up with fans across the country to let them know about the magic of mayhem. Mayhem during college football season is inevitable, be it good or bad. Whether it's a backup quarterback leading his team to a second-half comeback in the national championship game or the countless number of rivalries across the country, mayhem will definitely leave its mark. Simply put, mayhem in college football cannot be stopped. Unfortunately, it's not confined to the stadium. Fender benders on the way home, popped tires, cracked windshields, mayhem is everywhere. That's why I'm here to remind you that in those crazy moments off the field, Allstate is here to help. Leave it to me to cover the mayhem in the game, but stick with the experts at Allstate to cover the mayhem off the field. So get Allstate and be better protected from mayhem. For expert advice, call your local agent today.
Hey, college football fans, Kirk Herbstreit here. Whether you're home gating or tailgating this season, score big on Game Day Eats with Eckridge Smoked Sausage. And now you can enter the 2019 Road to the National Championship sweepstakes. You can join me at the College Football Playoff National Championship in Santa Clara, California for a chance to throw to win $1 million. To enter and learn more, visit EckridgeFootball.com. No purchase necessary, void where prohibited. Sweepstakes ends 12/20/18. Contest rules online.
Glad you're with us on a Wednesday morning. Golic and Wingo, ESPN Radio and ESPN News, presented by Progressive Insurance. All phone guests join us on the Shell Pennzoil Performance Line. Mike Golic, Trey Wingo here with you. We're so close, Mike.
One day more.
One more day until...
No, one day more.
Either way. Either way it works.
We are getting there.
The NFL season.
It's an exciting time. I mean, I go back obviously a lot of years before my first game, and I even had to wait a year because I was on IR my first year. So the entire first year when I was on IR, I was on IR for the whole season, breaking my ankle in training camp. So I had to wait a whole nother year to actually get out on the field and to have one of the first game against the Bears and tackle Walter Payton. You know,
wow.
Luckily,
your first tackle was Walter Payton?
No, it wasn't my first tackle, but luckily up the middle, it was an up the middle play, and I tackled him. And you know, when you're on the field, you don't think I just tackled Walter Payton. It's just a number to you, and someone you tackle. Afterward, you realize, wow, it was Walter Payton. But a little later in the game, I had there was an outside play. I was playing nose tackle, but I made it to the outside, and it was kind of me and him, and I was on the ground and he was running down the field. So it worked a lot better when I could tackle him in between the tackles when there was a lot less room to move. Yeah. And this was obviously at the end of his, what his career. But, boy, oh boy, it was interesting.
No, it's funny you say that because our former colleague here, Merrill Hodge, who was a running back, obviously at Idaho State and went on to play and have a great career with the Pittsburgh Steelers. One of his first preseason games was against the Bears. He waited until after the game was over and ran across the field to shake Walter Payton's hand, Mike, and just told him, hey, you're the reason I play, blah, 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 blah. And he actually got an autograph from Walter and all that kind of stuff. And he thought it was the greatest thing in the world. And some of his Steeler teammates saw him and said, dude.
Yeah. I didn't go that far. I made sure to shake his hand after the game and stuff, but I didn't go all, fanboy on him or anything like that.
Total fanboy on him.
Yeah, but I was like, I like to tell the story. The story always gets better afterward, that I tackled him and I stood up and I said, you ain't so bad.
Yeah, I got you. Yeah, you ain't got nothing on me today, Walter.
Right.
Sweetness? No. Sourness. That's what I just experienced. All right, we've got a lot to get to. We've got Hall of Fame guests coming up in just a little bit, so let's do what we always do by starting with what's trending, and it took a while, but it trended the right direction for Rafa Nadal. 4 hours and 49 minutes in a 5-set thriller that went to a 5th-set tiebreak before he finally beat Dominic Thiem to move on to the semifinals, the defending champ, 2 wins away now from his 18th career Grand Slam victory.
He had done it 3 other times in a major, lost a set 6 love, and he had lost all those matches. This one he did come back to win. And listen, it was hot, it was humid, it was grueling, like this U.S. Open had been.
Yeah,
you have to really pull from the reserves here. I can't even fathom how tough it has to be, but he does get it done. He's had a couple of 4-hour matches. I mean, that's just the wear and tear on your body is just incredible. The shape these guys are in. These guys, swimmers, wrestlers. You're talking about while wrestling and swimming can be team sports, the individual play and individual work of what you have to do and the type of shape you have to be in. So great job for him. Serena Williams started off slow in her match against Caroline Pliskova. Pliskova, I'm sorry,
that's okay.
Former number 1, started off slow, but then rattled off a run in between the first and second set.
It was, yeah.
To get that win. So she moves on. Sloane Stephens, who was the defending champ, she lost. John Isner, our last American hope on the men's side, he lost to Juan Martín del Potro, who went in for the break they get for the heat, showered, retaped, laid down on a while he was getting retaped and said, I don't want to go back out there. I don't want to go back out there.
This.
And he went back out there and he ended up beating Isner, but it's just been brutal there. They postponed some of the juniors matches yesterday. Been very difficult.
Listen, I'm glad you bring that up because I don't think people understand. People talk about the fittest athletes. They talk about soccer players or boxers.
Yeah.
Nobody's fitter than tennis players. Nobody.
I don't know if I can. It's just like when people say nobody works harder than this guy. I hate that statement. I won't say nobody. I won't say no other athlete because I've seen what wrestlers do, and I've seen what swimmers do.
Yeah, but how long is a wrestling match?
A wrestling match is 6 minutes, but the training, I'm just saying.
Yeah.
I'm not going to say nobody. I refuse to do that. They're right there, though. They are right at the top of the heap as far as being in shape. Swimmers, they're swimming for long distances, water resistance there. That is very, very difficult to do. So they're right there. Listen, could they be number 1? Absolutely, they could be the top. But it's very difficult for me to always say they are and nobody else is.
Well, look, I'll give triathletes a big thing here. But in terms of individual sports on a bigger scale, I mean, you're out there on your own. And the thing about tennis, which makes it beautiful and brutal, I mean, Rafa Nadal always talks about the suffering. You're either going to close that guy out or he's going to close. There's no time.
Yep,
you can't run out the clock.
It's very true.
You can't do this. You can't rely on your teammates. You can't rely on your coaches. You're going to outlast him or her, or she's going to outlast you. And that's what makes it beautiful.
It's brutal.
And brutal.
Yep, without a doubt.
At the exact same time. Again, second time this U.S. Open that Rafa has survived a 4+ hour match in the amazing heat. Well, number 11, number 12, Virginia Tech made the biggest jumps in the first Associated Press college football poll of the regular season, while number 4, Ohio State, leapfrogged number 5, Wisconsin, after a week in which most of the top teams were essentially unchallenged, Mike.
Yeah, so you had the drops of Miami dropping 14 spots, Michigan dropping 7 spots, the big jumpers, Virginia Tech up 8, LSU, the big one, from 25 to number 11. So that leads to a couple of ranked matchups this week because South Carolina, we're going to have our buddy Darius on tomorrow, sing the praises of South Carolina, and then as we get ready for our NFL season as well, South Carolina move up to number 24. They take on number 3 Georgia this week, and you also have Stanford at number 10 and USC number 17. So a couple of ranked games going on in the second week of the season. So there were 4 last week, a couple this week. So look forward to that. And then up into the third weekend where we know we at least have LSU Auburn, which is going to be one heck of a tilt.
Absolutely. And Allstate knows that football season is mayhem. That's why they're reminding fans that if mayhem can show up on game day, imagine what can happen the rest of the week. So you better get protected with Allstate. Golic and Wingo here, ESPN Radio and ESPN News. You can get in touch with us, 1-800-Flowers.com Twitter feed at Golic and Wingo, or call in on our call-in line, 860-506-5505. We want to hear from you, but right now...
Man, and real quick, I remember my sophomore year at Notre Dame, we went to this one school and played against a team with a great quarterback. They were ranked number 1 in the country.
Why do I think I know where this is going?
The Pitt Panthers led by one Dan Marino.
Yeah.
And Notre Dame, we went in there and we beat them.
Yes,
You see where I have to go and live back in my history of my athletic career while this guy's sitting in the Hall of Fame?
It is a little sad.
That's all I have. That's all
he's got. So that's your introduction. Now let me do
my
his.
Teammate too.
Pro Football Hall of Famer, quarterback Dan Marino joins us on the Shell Pennzoil Performance Line, taking synthetic motor oil performance to a whole new level. Make the switch to Pennzoil Synthetics today. Dan, I'm sure that's the game that you remember most in your illustrious career, right?
I got to wake up and listen to that, Mike.
Sorry about that. I did leave out the part where we were teammates in '93 as well.
No, I don't. No. That was not a good day for us. The fact that you came in there and won, but yeah, I do remember that for sure. How you guys doing? Good?
Doing well,
really
Dan.
well.
So as the first game gets ready to go tomorrow, Philadelphia and Atlanta. Take us back, whether it's your rookie year or any year, just that feeling of that first real game. The preseason's out of the way. We take the next step to the regular season and preparing for that first game.
Yeah, that's what you work for the whole off season, the OTAs, everything going through summer camp is the excitement of that season, and the feeling of, hey, here we go, what do we got? We're going to line up, we're going to see what we can do, as a team, and how we've grown over the off season. Maybe excited about some of the new players you added. I mean, all those things come into play. I mean, even today, I'm excited about this weekend because NFL football. I mean, football's in my blood. It always has been, just like you, Mike. And this time of year, it's just, let's see what everybody has, and it's a long road too. It's a marathon, a lot of games, and you never know what's going to happen. So it's always fun and exciting, especially this time of year.
And it's obviously right after all the preseason. How much should fans count or discount what they see from their team in preseason?
I would say you could. You have to take certain things into play when it's preseason. As far as how is your quarterback efficient. You're able to look at some things like when you get your first group in there against the first group, do they move down and they get points? They efficient in the red zone when they get down inside maybe the 15-yard line, scoring points, and then it's about staying healthy. That's in my takeaway personally was always I wanted to get enough work in to where I felt good about playing in a game, the first game, or the year, because if you don't get enough time, then you feel like you might be a little rusty. And then after the first quarter or whatever of the regular season game, it's all gone anyway. You're just ready to go.
Dan Marino with us, Hall of Famer, courtesy of Nutrisystem. We'll get into that in just a minute. Obviously, Dan, a lot of talk week one about the NFL regular season is the rookie quarterback that will be starting week one, and that's Sam Darnold. What have you seen? Well, before we get to that, what are the expectations for a rookie quarterback? It seems now it happens more often than not. This is the 11th straight year we've had at least one rookie quarterback start week one of the season. So what's it like making that leap from being a really successful college quarterback to a completely new level of understanding and reading defenses and the nuances of the playbook as a professional?
Yeah, I mean, I didn't start week one. I, started, week 5, I believe it was. It's a lot. It's a lot on your plate, and it changes from preseason to regular season. Believe me, big time. You're going to get a lot of different things happen to you, and it happens a little quicker just because of the fact that the importance of every play and every possession for a rookie. It makes it tough. I think that he will have his, growing pains like anybody does. But, the coaches there, the people that are around him know that he has the potential. Obviously, that's why they drafted him so high, to be potentially a great quarterback in the league. So they're going to have patience with him, but who knows? He may come out and just, light it up because he does have a lot of talent.
Well, his nickname was the DNA at USC because they always felt he was calm in the moment. But, we had this really weird draft, Dan, where for the first time ever we had 4 quarterbacks go in the top 10, 5 in the first round, only topped by your draft class of 1983 when we had 6. Was there one guy in that draft that, as a rookie quarterback, you thought might be head and shoulders above the rest?
Just looking at it and studying a little bit, that I thought they all have a chance to be very successful in this, in the league. A lot of them have different type of talents, and I personally, I'm not going to pick out one guy, but Baker is obviously the number 1 pick in the draft, and he has a lot of obviously charisma and the way he plays the game and getting rid of the ball, and Josh Allen's a big guy that can throw it, and he's in Buffalo, and that's the kind of guys you want up there that you have to play in bad weather. So they're all guys that I think they're going to have success in the league. I really do.
Dan Marino joining us, Pro Football Hall of Famer, 9-time Pro Bowler, NFL MVP, 1984, former teammate of Mike Golic. I think that should be really
yes. That should be right at the top.
That was edited off, man. That was edited off.
So, Dan, we've seen monster money going out to the Odell Beckhams, and we just saw Aaron Donald and Khalil Mack. The money shouldn't shock us anymore where it's going and what teams are making and the ability to pay it. But what was kind of shocking, and I wonder your thought process, when you draft a first rounder, you pray they turn into Khalil Mack and Aaron Donald. Yeah. And the Raiders had that and decided to trade it away because they felt they would have had to pay it too much. What was your thought process about them trading him away?
You know what? To be honest with you, I haven't thought a lot about that whole thing, but I would say that, there's a lot that goes into that. When you look at it, all summer long. He's one of their guys. Yeah, do you want to pay him? Sure. You usually want to try to keep your own guys that you've developed and have been successful in your program. But at the same time, if there's a problem one way or the other with how it's going to work in the future, then, I don't see why, people would not make a deal if it's a good deal and they feel good about it. So both ways, I could see the advantages, and he's a great player, so he's going to do well for Chicago, obviously. And did Raiders get what they wanted?
Dan Marino with us, Pro Football Hall of Fame quarterback, and Mike Golic's former teammate. We'll make sure we get that in there for the rest of this interview. It's very critical information.
Yes, let's just keep going back to that.
Sadly,
did Notre Dame beat us when we were number one in the country?
Yeah, sadly that'll happen. Just so be prepared for that, Dan. What should Dolphin fans be prepared for with Ryan Tannehill this year? Look, a lot of people thought Adam Gase might go into the quarterback pool. He didn't. This is a big year for Tannehill, is it not?
I think it's a big year for the Dolphins just because everybody in general. I think because of the way the season finished last year and the fact that Ryan was hurt. I will say that this off season and all that, he's been very healthy. He looks very confident in everything he's doing. So I would expect that he's going to play at the level he was playing before, and maybe even better, because he knows that it's a big deal for him. And I love the kid. He's hardworking, and when everything's right for him, and we don't have the injuries, he's a really good player.
Talking to Dan Marino, as we joke about too many times, that former teammate of mine, but also former teammate of mine. I was a teammate of yours. You're the big man at Nutrisystem, and I was on your team for a while there. That you actually,
yes, you were. You were, Mike.
It really helped me lose some of that initial weight that I really, really needed to lose. It worked fantastic for me. You have been the head man there for a while now. What's happening now with Nutrisystem?
Well, today, you look at, people that want to lose weight. That's the big deal. Nutrisystem. The one thing you always want to say, Mike, and you could say this for a fact because it did for you, because it works. It works, and especially, when we talk about the men's programs, it works for men because it makes it simple. And I lost 22 pounds, and I feel really good. Back in the day when we did that, we had a bunch of guys, on our team that lost a lot of weight. And, the thing about it is it makes people feel good about themselves, because of the fact that it does work. And the good feeling is, I see people, like if I see them in the airport, Mike, or I see them somewhere, and they'll come up and say, hey, my wife got me on Nutrisystem. I lost 35 pounds, or I lost 22 pounds, and I look great, and I'm glad you did it, and I turned on to it. So that's the good part. It changes people's lives, and that's what makes it good. I've been doing it for a while. They have all the good stuff, Bud, the turbo shakes, for men, which are great and makes it quick and easy, and it works for you and it works for me.
Yeah, listen, I lost 50 pounds on it, and the best thing about it, especially for guys, is not a lot of thinking. They do all the thinking for you, so it makes it really easy.
Comes to your door, you eat the food, you lose the weight, man.
Yep, that's sort of a guiding philosophy of this show. I was told there would be no thinking.
Yeah,
that's sort of the way. That's sort of the way we approach things, Dan. And so far, it's working out for us. Hey, Dan, I got to ask you real quick. I can't remember if I asked you this during the Super Bowl when we had you on, but I heard this great story after your loss in the Super Bowl, 38-16 to the Niners. Jimmy Cephalo and you were riding back after the game, and he was all disconsolate because he'd been in the league 9 years or whatever, and he was like, I can't believe we lost it. And you were like, man, we got our butts kicked in that one, didn't we? We'll get back there next year. Is that how it went down?
Yeah, pretty much so. At that time I was 23 years old. And it was my second year, and I felt like, hey, I'm going to play in this game 4 or 5 times, and we lost it. They were good. They did kick our butts that day. They were a really good team with Joe Montana and that group, and it happened. And, we were going back in the car, back to the hotel, and I was like, you know what? I said, we're going to be back here. They kicked our butt, and let's forget about it and move on. But we never got back. But at that time, it's a true story.
Wow.
That's definitely a true story.
We've been talking golf, too, as well, with the Ryder Cup and such. We have your buddy and our buddy Darius on tomorrow, Darius Rucker, a guy you've golfed with many times. Tell me the best, because I know it's happened. Tell me the best. A, who's a better golfer between you two? And B, what was the best side bet you guys ever had playing?
Best side bet? So I don't think I have to even answer the question, who's the best golfer. That's obvious.
That's Dan. I've actually played with Dan. That I can't confirm.
I know one thing. He's a much better singer than I am. Let's put it that way. He's a way better singer than I am, a better golfer than he is. Let's put it that way for sure. But I don't know about any side bets, but he a lot of good times playing golf with him. I remember we were playing in Ireland one time, and I was turning around. We were on one tee, and you could see the par 3, made a hole-in-one. Those kind of things are the things you remember, and he's just a great dude. You know, Mike, we've seen him in concert many times. He's a very generous guy. You know, he loves the game of golf. He loves football. He's a big Dolphin fan. You know, so no side bets that I can remember that would be significant.
Or it could be said on air.
I think that's
that could be true too.
I think that's probably the truer statement of both of those. And on that happy note,
yes.
Dan, we'll wish you all the best and see what happens with the Dolphins this year. Dan, thanks for being with us.
You got it, Trey. Okay, Mike. Thanks, guys.
Later.
Dan
so
Marino,
he said all those nice
system.
things about Darius. Make sure you cut up the part about where he says he's a much better golfer, so we can play that for.
Well,
Darius
not only
tomorrow.
although he did drop in and he got the hole-in-one.
Yeah,
I mean he threw that one there just casually.
You have a hole-in-one?
No. Long time. I've come close a couple of times, but never seen it go in the cup. How about you?
No, I mean, it's really embarrassing. You golf way more than I do.
That's true.
If I get one before you, that just really would be a nail in the coffin.
I was
wouldn't
playing with somebody in 2013 who hit one of the worst shots I've ever seen to a par 3 uphill 220 yards, and it went in the cup. It was a worm burner.
And does it matter,
bouncing,
right?
And this guy said, I think that went in the cup. And I'm like, you have got to be kidding me. It would be inappropriate for me to say his name, Mark Donaldson. He works for us here on the ESPN International side.
Well, there you go.
Worst hole-in-one I've ever seen. But damn it, he's got a hole-in-one.
He's got one, though, yeah.
All right, coming up, the rookie quarterbacks obviously always get all the attention, but one team is starting a rookie at running back for the first time since our next guest started his Hall of Fame career. We'll get to that, Mike.
It's been a long off season without football, but FanDuel has spent it getting into the best shape of their lives. That means this. FanDuel is ready for more ways to play, more ways to challenge your friends, and most importantly, more ways to win. FanDuel also has new options for playing daily fantasy with your friends, because the only thing better than winning cash is winning your friends cash. Right now, you can get a $20 bonus when you make your first deposit on FanDuel. Just sign up at FanDuel.com/Stephen A. Age and state restrictions apply.
Remember when you couldn't order a ride at the press of a button? Or get online without hearing this? Or get Domino's delivered to over 150,000 unexpected outdoor locations? Wait, what? Introducing Domino's Hotspots. You can finally get pizza delivered right to the beach, the quad, or the dog park. Not at home? Not a problem. Find a Domino's hotspot near you and get 2 medium 2-topping pizzas delivered for $5.99 each. 2-item minimum. Handmade pan pizzas will be extra. Ask for this limited time offer. Prices, participation, delivery area, and charges may vary. Restrictions apply. Visit Domino's.com for details on Domino's hotspots.
Golic and Wingo with you, ESPN Radio, ESPN News. We are presented by Progressive Insurance. All phone guests join us on the Shell Pennzoil Performance Line, and we are 1 day away from the start of the season. And, of course, everybody that starts an NFL season has dreams of ending up their career like our next guest did, wearing a gold jacket and being shrined in the Professional Football Hall of Fame. And with that in mind, we are delighted now to be joined by Pro Bowl Hall of Famer, 2-time Super Bowl champ, the NFL MVP, Terrell Davis, joining us courtesy of Consumer Technology Association. TD, we'll get into all of that in a minute, but real quickly, when I say it's the start of another season, what does that mean to you?
Real football is back, and I am excited.
Yeah, buddy. You're not alone, TD.
Yeah, you know, man, the preseason. Here's the deal. Because I was able to, you know, obviously, the preseason is always going to be dear to my heart because it allowed me to come in and make some plays and obviously make the team. And, you know, I don't know if my career would be where it is today if I didn't have preseason. However, with that said, it's tough to watch, you know, because we already know most of these teams, and you see about, 4 to 5 different spots that might be up for grabs. But other than that, you're just watching guys out there, and some of the quality is not as great as it should be. So I know they're talking about ways to kind of either shorten it or, make it maybe 2 preseason games and then start the season. But whatever the case may be, I'm excited that now there's real football we're talking about, and we're not trying to just manufacture topics to talk about.
Yeah. Broncos running back and Hall of Famer Terrell Davis with us. Now, TD, real quickly, for those that don't know your story, explain why preseason matters to you, because if you had been able to speak Japanese or a hotel concierge had been able to speak English, your career might never have taken off. So put in context how that translated into one play in one game, which really translated into everything else.
Yeah, I don't know if I have enough time to talk about it.
Give us the Reader's Digest version.
The Reader's Digest version, the elevator one, is that I was in Tokyo preseason game in 1995, our second one, against the 49ers, and that week I had a horrible week of practice, and I wanted to go home. I was a 6th-round draft pick. I was getting no burn at running back, no reps whatsoever. And so I decided to go home. So after practice, I was at the hotel room. This was in Japan, in Tokyo. And I called down to the front desk, and I was asking if they can give me a flight to Denver, back to the United States. And we just didn't, she didn't understand me, and then I didn't understand what she was saying, and my Japanese wasn't great. Let me just put it that way. And so instead of booking that flight, and remember, there was no Travelocity, Expedia. You couldn't go on your iPhone and book a flight. So I said, you know what, I'll just tough it out. When I get back home, then I'll quit. And that was my plan. So I had already mentally tapped out of plan because I figured that I was just there as camp meet. And so then we had the game on that weekend. And lo and behold, I didn't expect to play in that game. And special teams coach at the time, Richard Smith, called me in, said, Davis, get in. And I go down on kickoff coverage, and I make a huge hit. And that was kind of the hit that got me noticed by the coaches, and they allowed me to play a few snaps. I got 8 carries and about 40 yards. And the rest, as they say, is sort of history. Now, the other thing is that I was eating hot dogs before I got in there, so I threw all the hot dogs up after I went back to the sideline. So.
A couple of amazing things there is the people that don't know that story are like, wait a minute, he was on kickoff team? Oh, yeah. Number 2, you got fined today for that hit, just so you know.
No, Mike, Mike, you got to go back and watch that.
It's one of the greatest hits of all time.
Impeccable.
Terrell, it was a fantastic hit. That was my point of more ripping the NFL for flagging great hits. That hit was fantastic. And speaking of that hit on special teams, there's a player on the Broncos who may have to make his bones this year as a special teamer, Philip Lindsay, also a running back. Hopefully he'll get some carries and such, but certainly going to have to at first carry the water as a special teamer. You got a call from him. Tell us about that. He wanted to wear your number. I'd have told him to kick rocks. You obviously are a better person than me, so tell us about that conversation.
Yeah, well, so he reached out to me. He kind of texted me, and so I called him up, and I talked to him. Man, I'm telling you, he's just an impressive young man. So the conversation, he's like, I wanted to, ask you, he grew up in Denver. He's a local kid, went to CU, grew up and explained to me how my book was like one of the few books that he's actually read and finished, and he uses that book as almost like kind of his guide, and when he's in tough spots. And so we just had a real good conversation, and I just felt like he was just right, It's like he's an underdog. He was undrafted, and it's easy to give it to somebody that comes in, their first-round pick, or somebody that's highly touted. That's easy. But to me, this just felt natural. This just felt like what the number represents, somebody who is not that superstar, somebody who has to make their own name. And, again, it's been a long time. I just felt like, you know what, man, give this young man a chance, and hopefully we'll look back on this and say, man, he turned out to be an outstanding pro. But no pressure on him. No pressure. I'm not putting pressure on a young man.
That's a cool story.
It is a great story. And Lindsay's one of a couple of rookie running backs that are making the squad. He's going to make it as a special teamer. By the way, he went to high school in Denver, played at Colorado, so he's keeping it local.
Yeah.
But there's another guy, TD, that's starting for the Denver Broncos. He's going to be the first rookie running back to start since your unbelievable run after that big hit in the Japan Bowl on kickoff coverage. And that's Royce Freeman, the kid they drafted out of Oregon. Listen, he put together all kinds of records in the Pac-12. And people I've talked to in Denver say they are really excited about what this kid can bring to the table.
Yeah, as they should be. If you look back at his Oregon tapes, he's a versatile back, and that's really what you want. He out of backfield, catch the ball, kick, punt returns, kickoffs. He can do it all. You watch him in Denver. What he's displayed was that he's willing to put his face in there and block as well, and you can trust that. So blocking, running, catching, he's the total package, and I really believe that he's going to have himself a real good career there. They're really young in that backfield right now. But they feel like they've got some versatility. They have youth. They have guys who are hungry. I'm excited to watch it. I can't wait to see how this whole thing unfolds. And it'd be good to see them, if they're able to take things to the next level, to see Denver have some success in that backfield.
Freeman, tough kid to tackle, 6 foot, about 235, 240. Kind of that bowling ball type of effect there. As we talked to Terrell Davis, Hall of Famer, 2-time Super Bowl champ. In your division, a team you played obviously a ton in, the Raiders. You saw the Oakland Raiders trade away Khalil Mack instead of paying him. As I said, you want your first-rounders to turn out like Khalil Mack, like Aaron Donald. Aaron Donald got paid by the team that drafted him. Khalil Mack got traded away. Was that a mistake by the Raiders in your opinion?
Well, we'll see, man. I try to look at this thing on both sides, and, it's easy for us to say it's a mistake right now. We might turn back in 3 or 4 years from now and look back and be like, man, that was the greatest move the Raiders ever did. I know it's hard for people to look at it like that now, but I try to look at John Gruden and say, okay, we have to trust that he knows what he's talking about. He trusts that he knows what he's doing. He made the comment that the Raiders' defense was bad with Khalil Mack, and, there's some truth to that. They weren't very good. But I think I look at it and say, man, you have a player that it just doesn't come around too often, and people respect, and you got to build a game plan to know where he is on every play. How do you find that player again? I don't know. But you got 2 first-round picks. It better pan out. And so for forever, until further notice, Khalil Mack is going to be attached to those 2 first-round picks. And if they don't pan out, then we'll be looking back and saying that it was a huge mistake. But I'm trying to be patient. I'm going to sit back and just let it all unfold and then see what happens down the road.
Well, listen, it better unfold pretty quickly for the Raiders. They can't get off to a 1-3 start because you know what's going to go on in that locker room. They're like, why are we struggling? We traded away that guy who could really help us win. It is now imperative for Gruden and the Raiders to get out to a very, very hot start. With that in mind, TD, a lot of questions about the Broncos this year. That a lot of people love their draft class, but how much of this depends on Case Keenum being better than what we've seen there since Peyton Manning in 2014 at quarterback?
A lot. It really does. He's the key. Denver, when they're good, they have consistent play at that position. Emmanuel Sanders was on our show last week, and he talked about how when Case Keenum came into the building, that he brought leadership. He brought some the kind of that not a swag, but a confidence that hadn't been there for a while. His ability to communicate with the wide receivers, the way he works, all those things that Emmanuel was talking about was great. So I think he's going to come in and do great, man. All he has to do is do what he did last year in Minnesota, and I think Denver's going to be fine. But guys, I need to talk about why we're here.
Yes,
I need to talk about these. Yeah, because here's the deal: we want to make sure that everybody out there, the consumers, that they're having their best football season ever. The way you can do that is we have these TVs. They're 4K UHD, which they deliver the best picture quality in the business right now. We'll start with the Samsung. It is a QLED TV. It has vibrant colors that just pop off the screen. The best thing I like about this one is it makes you feel like you're actually at the game and not watching it on TV. We also have the LG. This is the OLED TV, and this picture looks great from every angle, which means if you're at home watching it, you don't have to sit right in front of it to get the best picture quality. You can sit on the sides, and it's awesome. You have your friends over. You guys don't have to fight for that couch. And last is the Sony, and this one is the Bravia. What I love about this one, it has Google Assistant, which means that it's voice command. You can tell it what to do. You don't have to have a remote control or no remote necessary, and it's compatible with Amazon Alexa. And all of these are 4K. They're all 65-inch TVs, so go out there and get that. Now, that's the way you watch it. The sound is a Vizio home theater sound system, and it's an immersive dome surround sound. Man, listening to this makes you feel like you're right in the action. It is so awesome to hear that voice and the sounds of the game there. So even you guys sound good on this system, man.
I doubt it. And let me just say, you're good.
Yes,
TD.
you are.
You are money well spent. We'll just put it that way.
Well done.
TD, you are always money in the bank. Thanks for being with us, my friend.
Thanks, Terrell.
All right, guys.
He's the best. Pro Football Hall of Famer Terrell Davis. Again, if it weren't for a special teams tackle at the Japan Bowl because he couldn't talk to the Japanese concierge, we might not have a Hall of Fame career.
And
it's one of the great stories of all time.
Listen, I didn't mean it in a way as a bad tackle. It was a great tackle. But I think there's many people who don't realize that he ever ran a kickoff play in his life.
And it was after that, all the vets are said, put the rook in. Yeah. Ripped off 4 or 5 great yards, became the starting running back, had a 2,000-yard season, 2-time Super Bowl champ, and lo and behold, now he's in the Hall of Fame. Coming up, a former MV retired, or was he retired? Our guy showed out, and the team went full Major League 2.
Support for the Golic and Wingo Show podcast comes from our friends at Rocket Mortgage by Quicken Loans. Let's talk about buying homes for a minute. Because of rising interest rates, there's a lot of unpredictability when it comes to buying a home these days. It's causing a whole lot of anxiety with folks. Well, our friends at Quicken Loans are doing something about it. They're calling it the power buying process, and here's how it works. Quicken Loans will verify your income, assets, and credit in less than 24 hours to give you a verified approval. This gives you the strength of a cash buyer. Then once you're verified, you qualify for their all-new exclusive Rate Shield approval. First, they lock your rate for up to 90 days while you shop. Now here's the best part. If rates go up, your rate stays the same. But if rates go down, your rate also drops. You win either way. It's the kind of thinking you'd expect from America's largest mortgage lender. To get started, go to rocketmortgage.com/Golic. Rate Shield approval only valid on certain 30-year purchase transactions. Additional conditions or exclusions may apply. Based on Quicken Loans data in comparison to public data record. Equal housing lender. Licensed in all 50 states. NMLSconsumeraccess.org number 3030.
Will Shohei Ohtani of the Angels hit or give up more home runs this season?
He's going to give up more home runs.
They call him the Babe Ruth of Japan, Mike Golic.
Yeah, he will give up more home runs than he hits.
This ball is blasted deep out into right center field, and you can kiss it goodbye. Ohtani, his 16th home run of the season.
Listen, now, obviously the guy hasn't been pitching because of his elbow.
Whoa. Don't walk it back now, big man.
I mean, the injury took that out of play.
He pitched Sunday night.
But we're petty, so I could see us doing that. Sports Center brought to you by California Almonds. When you make this year's fantasy football picks, go with your gut. And that would be a gut powered by delicious California almonds. That is 6 grams of energy-giving protein are what you need to dominate the roster and put your competition to shame. Own every day this season with California Almonds. Learn more at almonds.com.
Well, let's be honest. If you do eat a lot of almonds, you won't have a gut. Because it's a lot of
true.
Protein, a lot
Big
of
fan
fiber.
Love the almonds.
And a little flavor they put on honey roasted. Mwah. Yeah. Very, very good stuff. Very, very good stuff. Okay, we played the Shohei Ohtani
yes, we did.
Because this happened last night. Angels Radio, AM 830. I wasn't there. That was Angels Radio, AM 830. So it happened. He had another home run. So it's kind of tough for you, but, you know.
It is. Because we did talk about give up more home runs or hit home runs. And, again, he hasn't pitched most of the season because he got hurt.
Yeah. Well, sure. These things happen. Speaking of getting hurt, people discourage fighting with your own teammates because you can get hurt.
You don't like fighting overall, but sometimes it happens. When you're hot, sweaty, you get a little emotional.
Training camp especially.
Rarely do you want that amongst your teammates.
No, it didn't. But it happened in the Mariners clubhouse, Mike, before the Orioles game.
Yeah, it did. D. Gordon, he actually asked reporters to leave the clubhouse and shut the door.
So this was premeditated.
Yeah.
If this were a case like with a criminal charge, they could show premeditation here.
Gonna be a fight. Gonna be a fight. So he and a teammate got in it. Basically, it was over an error the day before, but the fight went through the double doors that go out of the clubhouse into more public area.
So it didn't really help getting the reporters out of there.
No, it really didn't. So that's a tough call. And listen, you play long enough, it is going to happen. I certainly saw my share of fights in our locker room, especially in Philadelphia. I mean, there was more than a few fights in there.
The naked stare down between the offensive and defensive line?
Oh, training camp. Yeah, that was a doozy right there. West Side Story in
Westchester.
In Westchester.
There you go.
In bare naked, in a bare naked way. But this does happen, and obviously it gets to be a headline when it's your own teammates. But this is something normally you don't really see it during a season, but you never know when frustration is going to rear its ugly head and what it could turn into on some day if someone's got a short fuse, then boom, all of a sudden you got to fight.
Yeah, that happens all the time. My favorite part about this is manager Scott Service's quote, things happen.
Yeah.
Things happen.
Guys are emotional. It's been a long year.
We're moving on.
Yeah. What are you going to do?
Things happen.
Yeah.
Nicely done. Okay, then there's always this debate, Mike. Does someone retire or are they retired?
Mm-hmm.
Because someone announced their retirement from baseball on the Players Tribune, and I wasn't sure that I had thought he had played for the last few years. And he had a very good career. He was a former MVP, World Series champion.
But he hasn't played since 2016.
Hasn't played since 2016. Ryan Howard announced his retirement. And that begs the question, did he announce his retirement or is he just realizing he had been retired?
Yeah, I mean, he did sign a major league deal with the Braves and Rockies last season.
And he gets all that money.
That he's always going to get. Listen, I know all about that.
Yeah.
when I retired, I was retired.
Right.
You know, nobody called. So you kind of retire. And in all honesty, that's how most people end their professional career.
Yes.
Rarely do you get to go out, you know,
you don't get the walk off.
Standing up tall and saying, I'm deciding to walk away. I could still play. Teams want me. For the most part, it does end the way that you don't want it to. You'd like to have a choice, but you don't have a choice. So really the only choice is to walk away. Yeah. I don't know his particular situation, but I'm with you. I had thought he had been retired.
Yep. Again, 258 career hitter, former MVP, 382 home runs, almost 1,200 RBIs in his 13 seasons. The 2006 NL MVP, twice led the majors in homers and led the majors in RBI 3 times during a dominant 6-year stretch. But whether he was retired or is now just announcing what was obvious, it's now done. Tip of the cap to Ryan Howard. Coming up, we'll be joined by one of the last great American male tennis players who was at times an artist on the court.
Remember when you couldn't order a ride at the press of a button? Or get online without hearing this? Or get Domino's delivered to over 150,000 unexpected outdoor locations? Wait, what? Introducing Domino's Hotspots. You can finally get pizza delivered right to the beach, the quad, or the dog park. Not at home? Not a problem. Find a Domino's hotspot near you and get 2 medium 2-topping pizzas delivered for $5.99 each. 2-item minimum. Handmade pan pizzas will be extra asked for this limited time offer. Prices, participation, delivery area, and charges may vary. Restrictions apply. Visit Domino's.com for details on Domino's Hotspots.
Hey guys, Golic here. We want to thank Allstate for teaming up with the Golic and Wingo podcast this season. Allstate is also teaming up with fans across the country to let them know about the magic of mayhem. Mayhem during college football season is inevitable, be it good or bad. Whether it's a backup quarterback leading his team to a second-half comeback in the national championship game or the countless number of rivalries across the country, mayhem will definitely leave its mark. Simply put, mayhem in college football cannot be stopped. Unfortunately, it's not confined to the stadium. Fender benders on the way home, pop tires, cracked windshields, mayhem is everywhere. That's why I'm here to remind you that in those crazy moments off the field, Allstate is here to help. Leave it to me to cover the mayhem in the game, but stick with the experts at Allstate to cover the mayhem off the field. So get Allstate and be better protected from mayhem. For expert advice, call your local agent today.
Hey, college football fans, Kirk Herbstreit here. Whether you're home gating or tailgating this season, score big on Game Day Eats with Eckridge Smoked Sausage. And now you can enter the 2019 Road to the National Championship sweepstakes. You can join me at the College Football Playoff National Championship in Santa Clara, California for a chance to throw to win $1 million. To enter and learn more, visit EckridgeFootball.com. No purchase necessary, void where prohibited. Sweepstakes ends 12/2018. Contest rules online.
Glad you're with us. Golic and Wingo, ESPN Radio und ESPN News, presented by Progressive Insurance. Our phone guests join us on the Shell Pennzoil Performance Line. But Mike, I'm told you have a quiz.
I do.
For us.
One quick question here. Not really a quiz of one.
Is this about math? Because you know.
It's my understanding that there would be no math.
Okay.
It does involve a year. That's not math, though.
Oh, that's
and
chronology.
nobody Google it back there. I want
Google machines back there.
Try. My daughter-in-law, Jenny,
yes,
was at a Starbucks this morning, and for some reason they asked a trivia question, and if you got it right, you got $1 off your coffee.
Gotcha.
She got it right.
Okay.
She was very proud of herself.
What's the question?
That she got it right.
I'm
Here
excited.
you go. What year did the Titanic sink?
I think I know this. Well, you can't pick one or two. Was that over there or was that just in her head?
It was just in your ear. 1912, we're going within the control room.
That is correct. 1912.
What are you saying that is correct?
I knew that. 1912.
Well, you didn't give an answer right away. You didn't know it. You would have said 1912 right away.
1912 is correct.
But you didn't answer right away.
Well, Stanzik is in my ear as soon as you said that. I wasn't sure if he was talking to everybody.
Either way, Golic, you owe us $1.
Listen to all you guys just screw up the thing I wanted to do.
It was in April of 1912, if I'm not mistaken, correct?
April what?
You
lose. Sorry. Time's up.
Jerk. April of 1912.
Man, you guys could just ruin everything, can't you?
Well, was it
everything?
Was it supposed to be like a guess all the way
around? Supposed to be kind of fun, little education in the morning. When did the Titanic sink? She got $1 off for coffee. Kind of a feel-good thing that you guys just spat on.
How did we spit on it?
I just hate you guys. You know what? I'm done talking to you guys. Just go on whatever you want to go on to.
All right, so we move on. Hey, glad you're with us. Listen, if you want to get in touch with us, because we might need it because Golic's shutting up for the last hour. 1-800-Flowers.com Twitter feed at Golic and Wingo, or you could call in 860-506-5505 and let us know. We've had some people call in a couple of topics. We'll get to those in a minute.
Yes, we will.
We've got a couple of really great guests coming up this hour, so we want to get to what's trending real quickly. And we'll start with the WNBA Finals are set. The Mystic and the Mystics and the Storm will meet in the 2018 WNBA Finals. For Washington, it's its first final appearance, and Seattle is looking to win its third title in 3 appearances, which is a nice way of saying the other 2 times they're 2-0.
Boy, the big sigh of relief in Washington when Elena Deladon hurt her knee in that game 2 that Atlanta won, even up 1-up. It was just a bone bruise in her knee. She was able to come back, and good thing for it. 14 points, 11 rebounds. Only Lisa Leslie is the other person in 2001 where 2 players started the postseason with 5 straight double-doubles. So congrats to them. They move on to play the Storm. Sue Bird going to get a lot of love here. 14 of her 22 points in the fourth quarter. But Brianna Stewart, the MVP of the league, what she had 28 in the game. She may go down in the history of UConn women's basketball, which is just littered with some of the greatest basketball players ever in that sport.
Yep.
She may go down as the top.
Yeah, absolutely. And Elena Deladon is the one that got away from UConn. She signed at UConn, went there, and then wanted to stay closer to home to be with her family and her sister who had special needs.
And by the way, happy birthday. Elena Deladon is her 29th birthday.
There you go. I was
not
aware of that.
All right.
So we'll look forward to that. The Washington Mystics and the Seattle Storm in the 2018 WNBA Finals. We move on, and the Stanley Cup is taking a look at how things are done in the offseason because Alex Ovechkin, after the Capitals won the Cup, took the World Cup to a Nats baseball game, World Cup game, slept with a thing. And then there were keg stands, and the people that hold the cup, the keepers of the cup.
Yeah, they don't want keg stands.
They're a little concerned about the structural damage that might be caused.
If you ever done a keg stand, and who hasn't,
you
basically do a handstand on the keg, so all your body weight is on the keg as you stand handstanding, and they don't want that on the keg. They don't know if the integrity of the keg will be able to hold up, or the cup will be able to hold up to the
forget
body
the integrity
weight.
of the keg.
Yeah, the integrity of the cup will hold up, and it might get damaged. So they are really frowning upon the thought of doing a keg stand with the Stanley Cup, a Stanley Cup stand, if you will, and drinking beer out of it.
I think that's a pretty decent line of demarcation. Do whatever you want, just don't do a keg stand.
Please
on the
don't
cup.
Damage the cup too bad.
Probably a bad idea. They had to do some serious work after the Rangers won it in '94. By the way, at one point that cup ended in the bottom of a player's swimming pool for the night.
Well, it was clean.
It's not what you're looking for. Not what you're looking for. Okay, Golic and Wingo, presented by 1-800-Flowers.com. Nothing makes up for your football obsession like a surprise from 1-800-Flowers.com. To order a dozen multicolored roses plus an extra bouquet in a vase for just $29.99, go to 1-800-Flowers.com/ESPN. We are in the final throes of the final major of the year in tennis, the U.S. Open. It's always one of the more thrilling because of the night matches, and we had that unbelievable match last night, 4 hours, 49 minutes between Rafa Nadal and Dominic Thiem, where Rafa battled back from being bageled in the first set to win that 5-setter in a 5th-set tiebreak. And perhaps nobody knows about the battles and the suffering that goes on with tennis more than our next guest. We are delighted to be joined on the phone by Andre Agassi, 8-time Grand Slam winner, Olympic gold medal winner. He joins us courtesy of Lavazza, and I just have to say he was always one of my favorite athletes when I watched him play. Andre, thanks for being with us this morning. First and foremost, in your book, Open, you went into great detail about sort of the suffering that goes along with tennis, and Rafa Nadal mentioned that after the match, that you have to be prepared to suffer. And that's sort of what makes these matches so epic, right? You either are going to close somebody out or they're going to close you out.
Well, first of all, good morning. You guys are better than caffeine, by the way. I mean, I just listened to the last few minutes. I'm like, I'm ready to go.
Thank you.
Yeah. I mean, I certainly tried to depict that in my book quite comprehensively because it is a battle between two people, and the truth is there's no finish line until you get there, and it all depends on what the other one's willing to do, and so you're always preparing and training against this hypothetical, if you will, and you're always questioning, am I doing enough, and you're pushing yourself really against the perfectionism of yourself. So when it comes time to test what you've done, you get to the bottom of your tank, and you never quite know what that means and what you're capable of until somebody's willing to get to the bottom of theirs, and sometimes those conflicts happen in front of the world, and the U.S. Open is epic for creating that environment. And when you see two champions like Nadal, or you take a guy like Thiem who's headed towards some great things in his future, it's a joy for all of us to watch. But yeah, it's never lost on me the price that's paid and what it takes to get through something like that.
So take us down on the court there, because for a person like me who put 20 pounds of football equipment on and practice in 100-degree heat, I'm amazed at what tennis players do for 4 hours in 100-degree heat. It blows my mind. So take us down on the court when it's that hot, and then especially when you lose the first set 6-love, of just how difficult and what's going through your mind mentally, forgetting the physical part of all this.
Well, I mean, listen, I'm not going to make an argument on sports, but I just heard a stat recently where unless you're a running back in football, I mean, at the end of a game, you probably run a total of 60 yards. So when you talk about these guys, they're out there getting to the bottom of their, not just their physical capacity. So you're talking about hydration, you're talking about nutrition, you're talking about preparation, you're talking about all that stuff on a physical level, but you're also talking about the greatest test of mental capacity, because it's like you're having a staring contest. You don't have to be good, you have to be better than one person. And when somebody comes out of the blocks and beat your ass 6-0, obviously they've come ready and they're dropping a level on you that you're not ready to sort of step up to, and then you got a choice to make. You're going to let this guy, dominate you, or you're going to put up some resistance. And, the flip side of beating somebody 6-0 is when that resistance comes, it's not quite so easy. So you have to adjust to that, and you get the momentum back, and and then it turns into a battle of wills. I mean, it's weird. In other sports, 6-0 might mean a 20-point lead at half in NBA, which allows a certain margin. But 6-0 in tennis basically means if I beat you 7-6, we're now even. So right. You've won. You're up 12-7, but somehow we're even. And you kind of have to take each set at a time, each game at a time, and I think that's what you see, like gladiators kind of going at it.
Andre Agassi with us, 8-time Grand Slam winner, twice a winner at the U.S. Open, 1994 and 1999. And Andre, every slam in tennis has its sort of feel. The Australian is the first of the year, and it's sort of, Australia is just a fun place to be. The French with the clay, you never know what you're going to get with the quirky bounces. Everybody knows the tradition and history of Wimbledon, but the U.S. Open seems like it's the toughest test and the toughest theater with the night matches that we see that go on forever. And the crowds, obviously, at the U.S. Open can be a little different than, say, the crowds at Wimbledon. What was it about the U.S. Open specifically that you liked and sort of people gravitated towards you about in your runs at the U.S. Open?
Well, those are kind of two separate questions. I mean, what I liked about the U.S. Open, quite frankly, when I started was very little. I mean, it came with a great deal of price to be paid. I mean, you have to remember that these people, these athletes on the tennis court here at the U.S. Open, they're not just showing up at, Arthur Ashe Stadium and playing tennis. I mean, they're staying in the city and they're figuring out their schedules and they're grinding out to the venue. They have their practice time, their eating schedules. I mean, all of the organizational stuff that just goes into just being prepared to step on the court. If you can make it here, you can make it anywhere, right? So it's that sense of urgency. It's that feeling of just energy. You have to contain all that and really direct it towards your objective, which is to get on the court and have all that go away and be ready to go. So there's a lot of just basic stuff around tennis that happens. Then when you talk about heading out to that hornet's nest as you walk through the tunnel and you hear the buzzing of the crowd and 20 plus thousand people there, and by the way, 20 plus thousand people that want you to do something that makes them feel like they're glad they spent their time this way. So there's nothing louder than 23,000 New Yorkers, and when you get their attention, you know something's really happened. And so the idea of it being quiet in Arthur Ashe Stadium is a whole different concept of it being quiet playing in Wimbledon, and I believe the distractions and the smells and all the stuff that goes along, the way the breeze works now with the roof and the way the shadows are working. I mean, there's so many nuances that two guys have to deal with, and that's the greatest part of tennis, is you don't have to deal with it well. You just got to figure out how to deal with it better than one person.
Talking to Andre Agassi, 8-time Grand Slam winner, Olympic gold medalist. Going to talk about Lavazza here in a minute, Italian coffee, which I can't wait for because I'm a coffee freak, so I'm looking forward to that.
Two of us.
But you won a couple of your Grand Slams in your early 30s. I think Australian Opens a few times in your early 30s, if I remember correctly. And now we have multiple guys not only winning Grand Slams in their 30s, but these are the guys that are dominating tennis right now. Does that say more about those guys, or maybe that the competition level of that are trying to catch these guys isn't quite as good as it was.
Well, it's hard to compare generations and depth of competitions, especially when you're talking about arguably the three greatest players in the history of the game playing in the same generation. I mean, when you talk about Novak, you talk about Roger, you talk about Rafa. I mean, you're talking about guys that have played. I mean, me and Pete played each other, 34 times, 37 times. I mean, these three guys have played each other more than Pete and I played each other. And every time they're playing each other, it's obviously for the biggest titles in the world. So when you have that, I don't know if it's fair to judge the standard or the depth of the game beyond that, because they're arguably the best ever. But with that being said, I do think that guys have gotten a lot more, for one reason or another, responsible about investing in themselves, about knowing that there's a length of career that's that can be potentially had, and as a result, they don't just run themselves into the ground. I mean, some of them still do, and they run into some real roadblocks physically or mentally or emotionally. But if you do it smart, I mean, you can truly be at your best physically when you're best mentally. I mean, you're not ready to win slams at 20 years old, 21 years old. But if you're good enough, you can pull it off. When you're 30 and you know what the heck you're doing out there, if you have a body that still does what you ask it to do, it is an advantage. Say what you want. It's an advantage to have the experience of time and to have the body of a 22-year-old. So I think you're looking at people who have just been a lot smarter about how they go about the overall choreography of their career.
Andre Agassi with us, 8-time Grand Slam winner, and one of the few that's won all 4 events, the Australian, the French, Wimbledon, which was his first, and, of course, twice the U.S. Open. I mentioned at the top you were one of my favorite athletes to watch because you were always interesting. I mean, there was the serve and volley guys with the big serve, and they try and beat you to death that way. You were more of a returner. You found ways to make points and get things going your way in a very different, unique artistic way. But your career was also very interesting. You were a guy that was a prodigy. You came up strong. You stumbled. You had more than one time in your career where you had to bounce back from the depths to come back and get to that top point again. What did you like most about your career and the way it played out?
Well, it's funny. I'm not sure if you're describing me or if you're describing every listener that's listening right now, because it's life. I mean, life throws you a lot of curves, and you're asked to figure it out and to persevere. I mean, I definitely have my own demons. My strengths are my weaknesses, but at the end of the day, I think the thing I'm most proud about is that I found my way to number one in the world. I'm not going to say by accident, but it certainly surprised the hell out of me. And then I found my way to 140 in the world that seemed to surprise everybody else, but didn't surprise me. And then the return back to number one was something that was what everybody, I believe, in this thing called life can identify with. And it was a reality that I was in. It was a dream and a goal that I had. It was taking an ownership of a life I had never chosen. And at that stage, I had my reason to choose it, and I started again. And every step along the way was a reality check, because I knew where I wasn't. I knew what a good day meant, which wasn't a whole lot, and I knew what a bad day meant, which unfortunately was, a lot more. And to be able to push through those day-to-days and to keep your eyes on the goal and to know that I don't know where I'm going to go, but I'm going to get one day better, because today's a day and it's an opportunity to make more of myself than I know I can be. And it was literally a process that being back to the top was just a byproduct of. And I think what I'm most proud about is that, because it is parlayed into a life that I haven't stopped, pursuing with that same mindset. I'm not good at a lot of things, but I know I'm damn sure that I can be better than I am today. And, that's probably what I hold on to most.
And for most of your career, you were better than that one guy on the other side of the net, which is all that matters. We're talking Andre Agassi. And tell us about Lavazza now. I know I'm interested. As I said, I'm a coffee freak, so lay it on me. Well,
I'll lay it on you. I mean, I wouldn't be talking to you this early unless I already had 4 cups of Lavazza. So with that being said, I get the luxury in life of choosing what I do, how I do it. It's nice, to get to as opposed to have to. And Lavazza has been a partner of mine for a handful of years, and they've been great to the game of tennis. They've been great to my foundation, and our relationship, I believe, benefits both those things, exponentially. And as a result, I'm a big fan of what they do. It's a family business of well over 100 years, and there's just something respect about people who go about their work in that way, and the overlap is a beautiful thing because others benefit from it, and thrilled to have it. And free coffee is the last of what I love about this relationship.
Well, listen, I've had it. It's wonderful, and caffeine will get you going. Believe me, we get up a lot earlier, Andre, so the caffeine works for us, too. Hey, listen, we really appreciate you being with us. For those that haven't read his book, Open, it's one of the greatest sports biographies you'll ever read. Andre Agassi with us, 8-time champion. Andre, thanks for being with us this morning.
Thanks, Andre.
God bless you guys. We'll see you.
It's been a long off season without football, but FanDuel has spent it getting into the best shape of their lives. That means this. FanDuel is ready for more. More ways to play. More ways to challenge your friends. And most importantly, more ways to win. FanDuel also has new options for playing daily fantasy with your friends, because the only thing better than winning cash is winning your friends cash. Right now, you can get a $20 bonus when you make your first deposit on FanDuel. Just sign up at FanDuel.com/Stephen A. Age and state restrictions apply.
Remember when you couldn't order a ride at the press of a button? Or get online without hearing this? Or get Domino's delivered to over 150,000 unexpected outdoor locations? Wait, what? Introducing Domino's Hotspots. You can finally get pizza delivered right to the beach, the quad, or the dog park. Not at home? Not a problem. Find a Domino's hotspot near you and get 2 medium 2-topping pizzas delivered for $5.99 each. 2-item minimum. Handmade pan pizzas will be extra. Ask for this limited time offer. Prices, participation, delivery area, and charges may vary. Restrictions apply. Visit Domino's.com for details on Domino's hotspots.
Can I just say really quickly, if I was ever in the position where I would possibly be losing $853,000 per football season, per week, my wife would tie me up, throw me in the back seat, drive me to the facility, and kick me out of the car.
Yeah.
That would be it.
Yeah, it's a difference, though. He made 13+ last year.
Yeah, so, it wouldn't matter. My wife would still do that.
Yeah. So we'll see what happens. Golic and Wingo, ESPN Radio, ESPN News, presented by Progressive Insurance. All phone guests join us on the Shell Pennzoil Performance Line, including our next guest. We are delighted to bring him in. Al Michaels of NBC Sports. He begins his 10th season in the booth with Chris Collinsworth tomorrow night on the NFL kickoff game, Falcons at Eagles on NBC. Al, good morning. Thanks for being with us. You ready for the start of another NFL campaign?
Guys, I'm very excited. It's the last day that every team in the league will be undefeated. Somebody will have an L tomorrow night, so, optimism is rampant. Everybody thinks that they have a chance to make it to postseason. Certainly these two teams do, so I'm really excited about this. But the overriding story, I think, tomorrow night is going to be the heat. It's supposed to be pretty close to 90 at game time.
Well, that harkens back to an Eagles opener they played years ago against the Cowboys, the Pickle Brine game, where that played at old Texas Stadium, and they were swallowing that pickle juice and pickle brine to keep them hydrated. Al, you've done a lot of great things in your career, and obviously some of the calls are memorable, including the best all-time, do you believe in miracles? Yes. The greatest thing I've ever heard you say is a million times about a football game, nobody knows anything. I mean, everybody goes into this season with these preconceived notions. This team's going to be good, that team's going to be bad, and then it plays out the opposite way. You really have to embrace the nobody knows anything notion when it comes to football these days, right?
About almost everything in the world. I mean, I've learned that from, dabbling and then getting into it with more immersion with the stock market.
Yeah.
You listen, and everybody's got, the blah, 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 and this and that, and buy this stock and short this stock, and it's the same thing with football. But you know what? This is one of the reasons I love sports, because I love listening to the back and forth, the give and take, why this team's going to win, why the other team's going to win. And the great thing about it is, and you guys know, I've always tried to slip in these references to point spreads and over-under, and I kind of do it a little coyly and have some fun with it. But the reality is, I've always felt that if I had to make my living betting on football or betting on sports, you would find me living under a freeway overpass. You'd find me under the 405 at Wilshire Boulevard in West Los Angeles. That's where I'd be.
Well, we know a lot of people are going to start gambling as it becomes legal in more and more states. Hopefully not trying to make a living out of it as well.
Not just for entertainment purposes anymore,
Al. Al Michaels
Right.
joining us. He and Chris Collinsworth will be doing their 212th game together tomorrow night when they call Atlanta and Philadelphia. You're also Sunday doing the Chicago Green Bay game. So obviously part of what you do outside of calling the game is talk about storylines. And for that game, a storyline obviously is going to be a Khalil Mack. So just take us back to when you first heard that the Oakland Raiders traded Khalil Mack away, what your thought was as far as good, bad, and different, or what kind of a move it was.
Well, the interesting thing was I heard it about the same time everybody else did. So I knew that it was out there, that Mack hadn't signed, that it could be a possible trade. So I heard about it at the same time everybody else did. But going all the way back, it's kind of funny thinking about the Raiders and thinking about Gruden. And the one thing about John Gruden, the only thing that didn't surprise me about this trade was that if you go back to John's history, he loves offense. He's about offense. He always has been. And now the question becomes, you want to spend, 10% or 8%, whatever it is of your salary cap on a defensive player? And so that's why I wasn't shocked, but I was a little surprised that you give up a guy like this. But we'll see how this turns out in the long term. They got obviously some top draft choices coming their way over the next couple of years. But it's unusual. It's certainly unusual to see something like that happen. And, of course, it makes our game a lot more interesting on Sunday night. I know that.
Just for numbers' sake, the projected cap next year when his cap number will kick in is supposed to be like $190 million. He'll be right around the 12% range with the J.J. Watt, Von Miller type players of percentage of the cap.
Yeah, and that's the other thing. And Al, we've seen as we're talking to Al Michaels, that cap is going to go up. We've seen these deals with NFL sponsors continuing to grow and go north. And look, you know this as well as anybody, with now not just for entertainment purposes only. There's going to be revenue the NFL is going to make off that. There's also the new streaming rights that are going to be going. So as people think, how can I get my head around paying one player this much? It's because that salary cap is continuing to go north. It's not going to go south.
I agree. It will go north. It will go north by, maybe 5, 6, 7% a year. Guys, I just look at this with a worldview, these numbers. We all know about Aaron Rodgers' contract and Mack's contract, and Aaron Donald was the highest paid defensive guy for about 10 minutes. I'm thinking about the average salary of somebody in this country is $60,000 a year. So forget the inflation factor. We know that. But if you work 40 years at $60,000 a year, you're going to make $2.4 million lifetime. These numbers, it's beyond astonishing. We should be used to it by now, but I still have to look back and say, wait a minute. Yeah. The average salary in the National Football League is pretty close to what somebody's going to make their entire life. And my favorite phrase is when somebody says he's going to get paid, like he's not getting paid now. What are we talking about? These numbers are crazy, but that's the way of the world, and it's capitalism.
And then it's all relative too, because NFL players get sick to their stomachs every year NBA free agency hits, and they start to see that money go down. It's really, really incredible. As Al Michaels joined us for the start of yet another NFL season, what do you look forward to the most when they see? We talk from a player's side of it. I try and relive it of the excitement of that first week. What gets your juices going to the start of a season?
Well, it's a mystery. I mean, it's like you open up a package, you don't know what's in it. It's kind of Christmas morning in a way. Tomorrow night's game is it should be great. They played we did the playoff game here last year where it went down to the end, and Julio Jones fell down in the end zone, couldn't ball in the pass. Otherwise, Philadelphia doesn't win the Super Bowl in all likelihood, and Atlanta advances on to the conference championship game. So it's great to have this run up, and you're thinking about all the possibilities. And then it plays out. And the one thing I've always loved about football and all sports is the drama. Sometimes I think fans think that announcers root for teams. We don't root for teams. We root for games, for drama. I think the Super Bowl last year was about as good as it gets. That game, I've always said that games have an ebb and a flow. That game never ebbed. That game just flowed for 60 minutes. It was terrific. And you didn't have to have a dog in the hunt. you could have just sat there and watched it, and I just thought the drama was tremendous, and that's what I look forward to the most. I look forward to great games going down to the end, overtime, what have you, and then the big surprises that always take place during the course of any season.
Well, yes, we're talking with Al Michaels. Again, if I told you Tom Brady's going to throw for 300 at the half and 500 in the game, you would have said, book it. The Patriots are winning that sixth ring, yet it didn't turn out that way. So as we're talking with Al Michaels here, one of the things that obviously dominated the preseason, Al, was the new lowering of the helmet rule. It seems like that's played its way out to a little more normalcy over the last couple of weeks of the preseason. And we've had a couple of guys on that basically said, look, we'll call it a certain way in the preseason, and then people will know what to expect, and that'll be toned down a little bit in the regular season. Do you expect that to play out beginning tomorrow night?
I do. I think the first couple of weeks, a lot of the officials didn't know, do I call this? Do I not call it? And some of them decided they would call everything. And then I think everybody got together and said, no, wait a second. It's very tough to judge intent. But if a guy is clearly, thrusting his helmet into somebody else's helmet or in an attempt to, not to hurt them necessarily, but just not do it the way it's supposed to be done, I'm all in favor of this. We have this year we get Terry McCauley, who retired, is, in my mind, one of the best officials in the NFL for years. And Terry will be in the booth with us. We all need rules interpretations these days. If Kavanaugh doesn't get elected to the Supreme Court, somebody should hire him to have him interpret the rules here. It's just so crazy. But Terry's of a mind, we talked to him last week, that this thing is going to calm down. And, it goes back to when they had replay. Why was replay put in? It was put in to correct the egregiously incorrect calls.
Right.
Then it evolved to the point where they parsed the hell out of everything. Now maybe it's going to go back to, what it was originally. And I think the helmet thing is the same thing. The egregiously wrong, the egregious call, the egregious violation will be flagged, and the other stuff won't be, for the most part.
Yeah, I agree. And it's nice to see that the video replays, it seemed like last year they were like, no, let's overturn everything. This year we're like, unless we're conclusive, we're going to stick with the call on the field, and I think everybody feels better about that. Al Michaels with us. Al, looking forward to it. We always like it when we hear these NFL chimes, and I know you do too. We look forward to tomorrow night when once again we'll find out nobody knows anything. Thanks for being with us this morning, Al.
Okay, guys.
Thanks, Al.
Appreciate it.
Al's amazing. He and Collinsworth, again, this is their 212th game tomorrow, 177 regular season games, 14 preseason, 13 playoff games, 4 Pro Bowls, and 3 Super Bowls together. Amazingly enough, and Al doesn't like Chris, so I don't know how they do it.
Well, people don't know this. There's a plexiglass barrier.
That's it, right?
So you can't tell that there's a barrier.
Man, you got to like someone to be going that long with them. They got to, we're having.
We make jokes. All right, as we said with Al and Chris in the booth, the NFL season starts tomorrow night in Pennsylvania, and someone hasn't shown up for work yet in Pennsylvania.
Support for the Golic and Wingo Show podcast comes from our friends at Rocket Mortgage by Quicken Loans. Let's talk about buying homes for a minute. Because of rising interest rates, there's a lot of unpredictability when it comes to buying a home these days. It's causing a whole lot of anxiety with folks. Well, our friends at Quicken Loans are doing something about it. They're calling it the power buying process, and here's how it works. Quicken Loans will verify your income, assets, and credit in less than 24 hours to give you a verified approval. This gives you the strength of a cash buyer. Then once you're verified, you qualify for their all-new exclusive Rate Shield approval. First, they lock your rate for up to 90 days while you shop. Now here's the best part. If rates go up, your rate stays the same. But if rates go down, your rate also drops. You win either way. It's the kind of thinking you'd expect from America's largest mortgage lender. To get started, go to rocketmortgage.com/Golic. Rate Shield approval only valid on certain 30-year purchase transactions. Additional conditions or exclusions may apply. Based on Quicken Loans data in comparison to public data record. Equal housing lender. Licensed in all 50 states. NMLSconsumeraccess.org number 3030. Got a new guy here and I hate him. Tell everybody why I don't like you.
I did not know Mike Sr. played in the NFL.
What did you know about me?
Great radio host.
Well, way to save it.
I knew you were an athlete.
But you had no idea what I did.
No.
Get out. There's something about his face. I want to punch him right in the face.
Well, please don't, because then I'd be looking for a new host.
So everybody knows I didn't punch him in the face, but we haven't seen him again.
You wanted to. That's because he was an intern.
Whatever. Sports Center brought to you by Odor Eaters. It's summer, and we're all about to, well, it's the end of summer, but still, we're about to be very active on our feet this season and continue into the winter. So make sure you tackle foot odor before it starts with new Odor Eaters Charcoal Foot Scrub. Pick some up at Walmart, CVS, Kroger, or Dollar General. Start fresh, stay fresher with Odor Eaters.
All right, Golic and Wingo here with you. We talked a little bit today about Ryder Cup captain for the USA side, Jim Furyk, our guy, Jimmy, Jimbo, J-Man, Furzy, with 3 of his first 4 captain's picks, and they were Bryson DeChambeau, Phil Mickelson, and Tiger Woods. No surprise there. He'll have one more next week. We all believe it's going to be Tony Finau. Our
yes,
guy,
we do. He's the favorite,
guy.
I believe, at this point.
He is. The European team is done. It consists of the automatic qualifiers of Tommy Fleetwood, Tyrrell Hatton, Rory McIlroy, Francesco Molinari, Alex Noren, Torbjorn Olesen, John Rahm, and Justin Rose. And he announced all 4 of his wild card picks. We call them captain's picks. They call them wild cards. And one of them was no surprise, Ian Poulter. Every 2 years, Ian Poulter becomes the best golfer in the world. I mean, you watch Ian Poulter at the Ryder Cup, he looks like he is amped up he's ready to play a football game.
Right.
Ian Poulter crazy eyes are one of my favorite things about the Ryder Cup every 2 years. So he was in. The other 3, Henrik Stenson, Paul Casey, and somewhat surprising, Sergio Garcia, who has not had a lot of success since winning that first major, the Masters in 2017. But again, you look at the number of majors on the U.S. side as opposed to the number of majors on the European side. Molinari has come through. Rory has.
Molinari's been hot this year.
He's been one of the best golfers in the world.
Tommy Fleetwood.
Yep. And John Rahm continuing that great run of Spanish golfers, Sergio and Seve and Jose Maria. But this team, this is an American team that has to go in as the favorite here. And again, remember, if you're the defender of the cup, you need 1/2 point less to win it.
Right.
The challenger has to get 14.5. All you need is 14 points to retain the cup. So again, those are the European wild cards: Stenson, Sergio, Paul Casey, and wild crazy eyes.
And we love again the fact that it's nations. You know, you're rooting for the U.S. And remember, it's in Paris. It's the weekend of September 28th, that football weekend, but 6-hour time difference. So the golf will be going on here in the morning.
Yes. That's
so in the morning golf. And then in the afternoon and evening, either college football or NFL football. Are you kidding me?
That doesn't get any
wow.
better. Okay, we asked for phone calls today. We got a couple that I want to get to here. 860-506-5505. As you might imagine, the most tempestuous topic, for lack of a better term, contentious, has been what Nike is doing with Colin Kaepernick. And here's what somebody called in to say.
Hey guys, listen to you talk about Colin Kaepernick and the Nike thing. During the time when Colin Kaepernick was doing all this and protesting, how much money did he contribute to social injustice or social causes? You know, that's where I have the biggest heartburn on this whole thing. Thanks.
Well, you want to go ahead and fill him in?
Yeah, listen, you're entitled to your own opinion, and that's fine. I understand how both people feel very strongly about this. What you're not entitled to is your own ignorance, okay? Just know the subject matter. He gave away over $1 million. It's pretty easy to find. It's well documented. It's not some deep state myth that's on the interwebs and the Google machines, okay? It's very simple. As he was unemployed with no salary coming in, he gave away $1 million.
This was a couple of years ago.
Last year.
Last year.
Finished up last year. It was over a year and a half. He gave away $1 million to $100,000 gifts to 10 different charities. So yeah, that's what he did. He also went over to a bunch of foreign countries in Africa, and I believe in Haiti, and did some charity work there. So I understand the passion on both sides of the argument, but just understand the information around the subject. That's all I ask of anybody. He has donated a ton. And I know people will say, oh, to him, $1 million is like, $200 to me. Okay, well, do you feel like you should be donating more when someone says you're donating $200 out of your check is like somebody else donating $50?
Yeah.
I mean, $1 million is still $1 million any way you want to slice it.
Listen, I agree.
Yeah. So you can disagree with that, but just understand he is doing that. He has done that, and he continues to.
And
do
a lot
that.
of the talk we had today was more about Nike. Some people were starting to say, what was Nike doing here, and what were they getting into here? And as we said, they didn't jump, as we talked about, didn't jump into this in the last couple of years because it would have probably backfired more than worked for them. They are reading the market as far as they see it.
Yeah.
And listen, you all can decide, and you all are deciding whether you want to buy it or not buy it. Yesterday in one day, their stock declined over 3%. That's $4 billion in loss. but I'm reading an article here in Fortune about how investors aren't going to be too bummed right now because the stock was up more than 50% last year and 135.4% in the past 5 years. So they're going to sit back and wait and see what happens. So again, whatever side you're on in this, you have a choice. If you have Nike product, want to buy it, don't want to buy it, you have a choice in all of this. Nike is betting people eventually will buy these products. We just have to wait and see.
And again, to your point, they're not betting on a one-day resonance one way or another. They're betting on a 5-year window. That's exactly what they're doing. So you can have you can choose to say this one day means this. And it probably does.
And it may not work for them. It may not. We'll see. Time will tell.
They're betting that it will, and we'll see what happens. Hey, tomorrow we got Pat Shermer, Adam Schefter, and Darius Rucker. You can book it.
Remember when you couldn't order a ride at the press of a button? Or get online without hearing this? Or get Domino's delivered to over 150,000 unexpected outdoor locations? Wait, what? Introducing Domino's Hotspots. You can finally get pizza delivered right